This is the first place that the volunteers all came together. I suppose up until this point, they'd all been in their individual companies, and I suppose they realise, the size of the group in some respects, but they also realise the trouble that they're in. Given it's the closeness to Galway, the closeness to the railway line, I think they felt exposed here, and that's ultimately why they didn't stay very long. The volunteers who arrived here, they came from the main communities of the Rising in County Galway. You would have had, maybe 80 volunteers in Cumanamon from the likes of Clarenbridge. You could have had up to 100 from Athenry, the Athenry area, Newcastle, Cosson. You probably had another 40 or 50 from the Clare Galway, Castlegar area. And when you bring all that together, the records show that there was probably 500 or 600 people here. Outside of Dublin, this is the largest group of people associated with 1916. I suppose at the time it was probably empty. It was Easter. This was a college after all, so the college was probably closed for the Easter. And I'd say they had easy access here. And the buildings that you can see around us are the buildings that were here in 1916. This is the courtyard. Some of the more modern buildings wouldn't have existed. I think one of the entrances to the courtyard would have been just over here. And all of these then would have been farm buildings. And this is where we believe they stayed for that night. The buildings, while they're large, for 500 or 600 people, I imagine it would have been the conditions would have been pretty cramped here at the time. This building gives us a great example of what it would have been like for the volunteers when they were here. We have this big space. You can imagine a company of volunteers taking over the space and then putting out their bedrolls or whatever they used while they were out, and really making this place their own for the short time that they were here. So I started this collection about 3 years ago. People have been kind enough to give me photographs of their grandparents, their parents, their mothers and fathers. And I think it gives us a great insight into who the Galway volunteers were. Right? It gives us an idea, into the organisations that they were involved in, like the GAA, the different committees that they had set up, like the Athenry volunteer committees, and it gives us a look at their faces, and I think it really humanises them. You can see from a photograph here that we have from 1913, when the Gaelic League came to Galway. The people here are the national leaders, if you like. There are 5 presidents. There are lots of dignitaries associated with this photograph. But one thing is interesting. There's only one of what we'd call the Galway volunteers in this photograph, George Nichols. There's none of the Clarenbridge or the Athenry or the Castlegar or Clare Galway lads captured in it. Whereas another photograph here, we have a picture of Crowell senior county hurling champions from 1915. And in this photograph, you can see these are the volunteers. These are our Galway volunteers. And one thing that's noticeable is how many brothers there are. So typically if one brother went out, they all went out. And you can see in this photograph, you've got the Morrisseys at the back, you've got the Rooneys at the front. And then in Crowell, you've got one man in particular, Tom Kenny, sitting right there in the middle. My family involvement would really be through my granduncles. They would have been part of the secret societies and then part of the IRB. So here, this is Martin Rooney. Martin Rooney was here in the Agricultural College. He was in Myode and he was in Lime Park as well. They were small farmers. They had been evicted in earlier times. And I think this went a long way towards radicalising them, to use the language of our times as well. My grandmother, she's listed as being part of the Crowell Cumanamon in 1916 and also then during the War of Independence.